AITA for telling my male friend that he's shit at sex. One of my 24F male friends, ILL call Jack 25M, is a bit of a lad and very good looking. Jack basically thinks that lad points are important. He's always going on about how many girls he's been with and how high his body count is. I lived with him in a house share for a while, and whenever he brought a girl home, he'd make sure to parade her around by introducing her, spend 15-20 minutes in his room having sex, then come out and strut around naked or in his boxers. Yes, he really would. I remember saying a few times, "Why are you out here? You have a beautiful girl in your room and you're not in there with her." This behavior was pretty common for him, and even though he was an almighty douche, we were still friends. Anyway, after about 8 months of living together, after a drunken night, me and Jack ended up in bed together. Honestly, it was terrible, and having slept with him I realized something. Jack had a big dick, which I knew because of his strutting, but he thought that having a big dick automatically meant he was good at sex. Like, it just immediately made him amazing in bed. Our sex was shit, like hands down the worst sex I'd ever had. No foreplay. He left lights and TV on, then unceremoniously shoved himself inside me. The whole thing was basically a race for him to get inside me as quickly as possible. Maybe 10 minutes of uncomfortable jackhammering, then he was done. The next morning I was really sore because 1, I wasn't wet at all, 2, his dick was big, but because I was sore he took that as him doing a bang-up job. Anyway, that experience was a few years ago, and even after all this time, Jack is still the same lad he was and still ducks girls like they lined up on a conveyor belt for him. Back to the present. Recently, my husband and I hosted a BBQ in our garden, as gatherings are now allowed. Jack came over as he's in our mutuals group. Of course, after a while Jack starts going on about the girls he ducked, and even showing up another girl at the party by telling people he deducked her. Then he turns to me and asks if I can prove to the lads how fire he is at sex. Slightly embarrassed but also angry he even mentioned me. I straight up told him he was shit, basically worst sex I ever had. I then went on to say what happened and that he only has sex just to say that he's had sex. It wasn't fun, pleasurable or enjoyable, and for the record I didn't come. Amazingly enough, 2 other girls also backed up what I was saying their nights with him were pretty much the same to how I described it. Jack got defensive and angry, but we wouldn't drop it. He eventually left absolutely fuming. My husband, who knows I slept with him years before, said I was insensitive, especially as it seems Jack relies heavily on the lad sex god persona he's created. I don't think so. It was about time Jack was called out for being shit in bed, and maybe use this to learn how to actually have sex. All the boys in the group think I am an ass for calling Jack out. Me and the girls disagree. Holy cow, this got way more attention than I thought it would. Thanks for all the comments. And thank you kind strangers for the awards. Should clear a few things up. A lot of people asking why I was or am friends with Jack. I was back then, because honestly at times he was a decent guy, just blanketed by a douchey exterior. After I moved out of the house, we fell out of close contact but are still hovering in mutual friend circles. I am not directly friends with him now, but he's still a friend of a friend and we are normally civil. 2 I really don't get why people are misunderstanding the story. For the record, I did not cheat on my husband. Jack and I had a one-night stand together years ago while we were at uni. I wouldn't consider him my friend now, but we still have mutuals from different social circles and we do occasionally still see one another. Basically my friend group close mutual extended all knew of each other at uni. I am British and now live in the States. I attended uni between the ages of 18-21. At 19 I went to the States for a year abroad, and the sister uni is where I met my now husband. Jack is American and was an international student doing exchange. I was first year, he was second year. A first year, ended up living with Jack because I decided to go to uni last minute, and as halls were full, ended up responding to a house share ad. A lot of students drop out after making a house share commitment, so these ads are common. I actually met my husband, also American, through Jack, as Jack was one of my only known contacts when I moved to the States. My British uni and his American uni were linked. I met my husband a year after I slept with Jack. I could not possibly have had any idea that my housemate in one night stand would go on to introduce me to my future husband. My husband knew Jack, and I slept together because, and funnily enough, Jack brought it upon our first meeting. Living together, Jack and I mainly bonded over weed and raves, and although he was sometimes somewhat decent, looking back I am disgusted at our so-called friendship. I could write an essay on how he treated me. Link, if anyone is interested in an update, I posted it here. In regards to my AITA post, honestly, reading through the comments of women praising me for standing up and being honest warms my heart. I greatly appreciate the support I got, and the response my post got has encouraged me to be a stronger person. Yes, in that moment I was angry, but now I feel that I can continue standing up for myself and not taking any more shit. I ended up telling my husband I posted this on Reddit, and seeing how popular the post was and the comments for himself, he was immediately upset that people had called him an asshole for not standing up for me. From that we had a long, and maybe overdue discussion. I laid out how embarrassing the situation was for me, and how, after dealing with so much shit from Jack, I wasn't going to apologize for tearing him down, like so many people commented on. I asked my husband why he was okay with Jack's comments, as surely Jack embarrassed him as well. I even pointed to a hilarious string of comments. With my personal favorite, I think it is funny that the husband was disagreeing, like, honey, be nice and tell Jack he has bombastic. Go ahead and tell everyone he laid the pipe. Go on. My husband reasoned that that's just Jack. He doesn't really mean any harm in what he jokes about. I told my husband how I felt, and he honestly didn't realize that all this time the sexual jokes made me so uncomfortable, and that I just covered up my uneasiness by just going along with it. I also wanted to distance myself from his friends, close and mutual, as right now I feel like there was never any respect before, and certainly won't be any respect for me after, as I am still getting messages from the boys calling me a bitch, slut, whore, you name it. I told my husband that if he wasn't going to stand up for me or stand with me, I would leave him. The persona he has around his friends is completely different to his true personality and is not the man I married. I respect myself more than to let my husband and his friends disregard my feelings in such a blatant way, and worse, allow my husband to witness and just stand by me getting publicly humiliated. My husband is not confrontational whatsoever and admitted he was also very embarrassed but kept quiet. He has never said anything before because Jack is the ringleader of the group and didn't want to go up against him. And as it turns out, it isn't the first time Jack has made comments about me to my husband. I just haven't been there to witness it. Furious at that, I told my husband that breaking away from the toxic group would be best for the both of us, but if he wants to be Jack's lapdog, then I won't get in the way of that. I am pleased to say my husband chose me. He apologized for his own complicit behavior and agreed our lives would improve without our so-called friends. I think me pointing out that his friends disrespecting me were in turn disrespecting him got him to see the reality of it. Truthfully, if they had any shred of respect for him as a friend, they would not be putting him down publicly as well. We were both the butt of the joke. One last point, I didn't apologize to Jack and I never intend to. Honestly, I never intend to speak to him again. But I did message him before I blocked him. To sum up, I messaged to detail point by point why he was bad in bed, that having a big dick doesn't equate to being great in bed, and to get off his high horse. Women are not sexual objects for you to parade around and embarrass. And maybe if you could please a woman, you wouldn't just have to rely on getting girls drunk from the club or bar. I also let him know that how he treats female friends is appalling, and he needs to reflect not just on his sex game but who he is as a person. So, I've informed Jack of his lack of skills and he is no longer ignorant. If he continues with his behavior, that is not on me. For the record, yes, women should be open and honest in bed, but I don't think it should be a woman's responsibility to let a man know. I mean, guys, read the room. Once again, thank you for the brilliant and supportive comments. Thank you for the awards, and finally, to all the chads, lads, brothers and jacks out there, you ain't shit. Sincerely, Women Everywhere X. hit like. If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing to our channel.